Here we are, riffing Wild Black. And here is Dr. Kazike Prince here with you, co-host with my friend, Dr. Lawrence James. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm a little parched, so I had to hydrate.
Hydrate.
Drink
I
water.
should probably have some water. Only liquid I have here is liquid smoke.
I don't think you want to drink that. You're gonna have some good ass
Nah,
barbecue though.
nah, it's all kinds of salmonella and whatever else is in there.
Right.
But really glad to be talking today. For
Great to
those
see you, bro.
who are paying attention, as you should, tomorrow is Juneteenth, my brother.
Juneteenth.
Hotep, keep hope alive.
Keep a lot, right, right.
Revolution will not be
Will
televised.
not be guilty, right?
So that's tomorrow. I don't know what folks might be doing. For a lot of folks, they may have to work, but it is a federal holiday. We're in our third year of it
Right.
being
Yeah,
a federal.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so you should be
I don't know
off.
nobody who getting that day off, by the way.
Well, hospital workers, people working at the grocery store, those folks will still
Right.
be working.
Right.
But hopefully you're getting a day off or working time and a half
Well, there you go.
for Juneteenth. And if you're not, hopefully you're getting some rest.
You know what? You just said so. Because, you know what? If you're getting paid on Juneteenth, unlike the folks who have been lied to for the 2 years before they found out, then actually, it's sort of like a weird reparations kind of thing.
Yes, I want
You
my
get
time
double
and a half
pay.
too.
You know what? That might be better. Fuck a day off. Give me double time.
Time and a half. Give me double time.
Double time for going to work. Let's make that Juneteenth.
And if there's any reparations you want to hand out, like the black man's discount.
The black man, the black man discount. You're like, get the discount, double pay.
There you go.
That's
there you go. And then for those who are paying attention as well, we have Father's Day coming up on this Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all those folks out there. I actually called my daughter and I was like, so,
no.
Because for the mamas, for good or for bad, the mamas, there's already plans and ceremonies.
It's all there, right?
Me, I'm like, are they gonna remember, brother? But but I learned a long time ago. You gotta tell them what you want. You can't wait, right? And mamas know this. You just tell them what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, so Sunday's Father's Day. She goes, yeah, I know, Poppy. I know, Poppy. I already took the day off.
Oh,
okay. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do, but we'll have some time to.
So is your gift is that she's gonna spend time with you?
Yeah, we'll probably find something to do, have dinner, hang out. She'll be like, I don't want to go outside. It's too hot. It's Father's Day. I want to do what I want to do.
Right, you're right. You're like, isn't that what it's supposed to be? It's Father's Day. That's my day. Which is funny because I think Father's Day or any day that daddies are with daughters and or sons, it's really the kids' day. Not really your day.
Because you pay for dinner.
Right, exactly.
All the things.
No shade to your daughter, but you end up paying for dinner, pay for the movie, whatever it is, you be like, I'm gonna pay for it, so it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it, so it should be a good weekend for all that. But we have some good topics to talk about, but some tough topics today. The side eye, which we'll get to at the end, is two topics. One is about the commentary. We're actually going to talk about the UFC in general, but one of the performers, I'll call it, one of the fighters called Michelle Obama a man during the UFC, and this is basically the first UFC event that happened at the White House, on the White House lawn, that the president supported, which is anyhow another thing. But one of the guys decided they want to talk about Michelle Obama being a man, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, you can kick rocks. Right. Another thing we're going to talk about is a really sad death of a 1-year-old boy in Mississippi by the Mississippi police down there, and all the circumstances related to that. So we got two side eyes, and there's so many more, but those are the ones we're going to focus on today.
Yes.
But then we want to back to the UFC. And I might ask Dr. James to take a lead on this when we get to it, but this has to do with Stephen A. and Jay Williams, former NBA player, who were at the UFC event this past week with I was going to say on George Washington's birthday, but it's on Donald Trump's birthday when he turned 80. So we'll talk about that. Then we want to kind of hit two topics at the same time: the myth of the absent black father and what we learned from our fathers. Because we both of us had dads and or had male figures or father figures in our lives, and so we're gonna spend some time on that. And then I thought it'd be good for us to just talk about what's the future of fatherhood. You
Mm.
know, because I think sometimes it's just not something we spend enough time on. I know I need to for a number of reasons because brother not getting any younger. I'm like, so what is the future? So those are our topics for today. I feel like I want to tackle the myth of the black father and what we've learned from our fathers first, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind.
No. I think that's it's Father's Day, brother. So
Yeah,
apropos.
yeah. Well, I wanted to approach it that way because one of the biggest myths that's been around for years, decades, is this idea that black fathers are just not present in the home. It's
Mhm.
this constant criticism because of the high divorce rate. There's a number of misnomers out there and stereotypes about black fatherhood, and I guess that was and unfortunately, that's based off of some misunderstandings, I'll say, because for a lot of folks, they didn't grow up with a father in the home,
Mhm.
you know. But the
Let's
research is
just said they
yeah,
didn't grow up with a father in the home.
right.
That don't mean they didn't grow up without a daddy.
Yes, two
Sorry,
different things.
sorry, two
Yeah.
different. Keep going.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's this whole premise that the only way a family can function is if you have the traditional or conventional
Mhm.
idea
Right,
of,
that nuclear family.
a heterosexual relationship at
Right.
best,
Mhm.
a father and mother in the home, and then whatever number of kids. And this stereotype of the absent father was really kind of cast on the black family because it was just because of the high divorce rate. But let's be clear, divorce rates are high amongst all groups of people
Very
in this
in this
country.
country.
But for some reason, black and brown and particularly black folks have been accused of just not being present at all.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, I struggled with this one at first because there were periods of time where my father wasn't present.
Okay.
There was actually years on different
Mm.
pockets of
Nope.
time where he wasn't wrong. And so I remember when I first came across this myth, there
Mm.
was part of me saying, well, my father wasn't
Right.
always around.
Yeah.
And even though he was around, he wasn't around,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because he was present, but not present in the ways that, like, we didn't have regular visitation all the
Got
time. We didn't go
got you.
see him. He didn't come
Right.
pick us up all the time.
Mhm.
Or did he do it at times? Yes. I'm not saying he
Mhm.
didn't ever. I'm saying there was a
Periods.
consistency,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? And then he had his own things that he was. So for me, I'll be honest, there was a part of me when I was younger that thought maybe that was true. I
Mm.
don't know. What do you think? What's your experience?
Yeah. So my dad was around. He was always there. It's interesting. Um, so when I was a little kid, to be honest, me and my dad were on very different pages.
Mm,
His definition of about black masculinity and mine were very different. Uh,
mm,
so I won't say we fought, but like
mm.
we just wasn't on the same page. Uh, and so he's in the house. He's doing all the things that we would say a father's supposed to do. He bringing home the bread. Blah blah blah. But I wouldn't have said growing up like I felt particularly connected to him. I mean, it changed as I got older and I better understood him and my
Mhm,
perspectives on things changed. But I think my dad, I would say, ascribed to a very traditional
mhm,
view of fatherhood,
mhm,
practiced not only by black men but white men and everybody in the country of his age. My dad was born in 1940, which was you go to work,
mhm,
you bring home the bacon,
mhm.
um, and that's about it. And you cut the
Yeah,
grass, right?
right, right.
Uh, and the rest of that is up to your mama. All that.
I'm laughing because that phrase you just used. Well, that's yeah, ask your mama.
Ask your mama, dude. That's what it was. He's like, that man be like, boy, did you cut the grass? That was the extent of our conversation. And my mama like, boy, you better cut that grass before your daddy get home. And I'm like, what the fuck is with this grass situation?
I'm gonna burn that grass. I'm gonna burn
Man,
it all.
look. A couple times I did put the gas can on like put a gas into the grass and burnt that shit up. I was like, oh, I'm like, I wish I could figure out how to do this, man. He loved his grass. I'm like, he'd be like, it was pristine. We had the best grass on the street. But in terms of like that, that my daddy was not Bill Cosby. You know what I mean? It wasn't that nurturing me. Me and I was not Theo in my house by any stretch of the imagination. So I think how we defined fatherhood was different. But I tell you something was really interesting, and I'll admit I was in my 30s when I sort of figured my dad out.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was my best friend who helped me, because he's like, man, he's like, my dad we're at the same. I'm Lawrence James Jr. So, but my dad went by Larry, and my best friend called him Laro. Don't ask me why. That was just his nickname. And he's like, man, leave Laro alone. He's like, Laro is cool. I was like, no, he ain't. He a pain in my ass. And he'd be like, man, yo daddy came down and hung out and played golf with me. He gonna walk, and he was married. My friend's black. He was gonna marry a white lady. He's like, he said he was gonna walk Karen down the aisle, because her father wasn't. He ended up doing it, but you know what I mean. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, and he's like, I was hanging out with your daddy playing golf. I was like, why? He's like, man, we had a great time. So he helped me to see my father in a very different way than I saw him. But I realized through him and through some other things, we disconnected because I didn't get him. And I'm not saying that was my fault or his fault, but like, I didn't really get what he was trying to do. And he clearly didn't get what I was trying to do. That's what I always realized growing up. But when I started figuring out, like, what does he really want from this relationship? And I realized, like, all my dad really wanted was just, in his way, to be connected and know what was going on in my life.
Right.
Which I found very intrusive, because he wasn't necessarily the dad that I felt like I wanted or needed. And when I kind of got through my own angst about all that and just sort of was like, oh, okay. Laro's just, he just want to know. And this is super old school black people. He just want to know you all right. That's it. He don't really need to know all the details. None of that. He like, boy, you okay? That literally, the question was, boy, are you okay? That's never what he asked me.
Right.
But the question was, boy, are you okay?
Right.
And so if I gave him the litany of all the things that showed that I was okay, my job happened, this happened, blah, blah, blah. I was out with this girl. I did this. I was hanging out with my peoples, yada, yada, yada. Like, we'd go from our house to the golf course. It'd be like a 20-minute diatribe. And then we could just play golf. And I could concentrate on golf, and I didn't actually have to answer no fucking questions about life. And I was really happy, and I think he was happy. He knew what he needed to know.
Right.
My little boy is okay. And I told him what he needed to know, and then I could go play golf.
Right.
And we was good. So, and it worked for us.
Well, and what I really, really appreciate you speaking on is each of us have unique relationships with our fathers, and what you described as, I think, is probably a lot of black men, but there's other black fathers who are different, and there's a variety of fatherhood in our communities.
Yeah.
And so, but what you described, I think, is probably a common one. Like,
it didn't feel like it was that unusual for most of my.
No, that was pretty common.
All our daddies were about the same dude, right?
Yeah. I mean, they asked about grades. They what sports you playing. Are there any girls you talking to?
Right. How many girls you talking to?
Yeah. You listen to your mama. Did you do what you're supposed to? I mean, it's kind of this baseline. Don't ask about if you hungry. Are you hungry? No. There's no one asked me that. In fact, I was told a few times. I was say, "Daddy, I'm hungry." You're like, "No, you're not." It wasn't time for me to be hungry. Apparently,
like, no, you're not. Like, but my stomach growling. No, it's not.
But I'm glad we're talking about this, because, again, this myth of an absent father who's not around, who's not involved, who's not doing whatever things that people's interpretation of what fatherhood looks like, is in real contrast. Now, are there plenty of men who tell you their fathers were absent? Yes. but the research is clear that when you talk about attentive fathers and their involvement with their families, whether they're in the house or not in the house,
Mhm.
the numbers are clear. They're actually higher than other groups of people
Mm,
in this country. But
mm.
there's this misnomer that we're
Yeah,
not involved.
right.
And I'll be honest, I love it when I see a brother out there at the Walmart, grocery
Mhm.
store, at the mall, at the park
Right.
with their kids,
Right, with the kids.
being a black father.
Just being, yeah, right.
Not
No, mama ain't nowhere around. It's just dude with his
just
kids.
them by themselves.
Mhm.
But as if that's something special because it's not.
Right.
But I'm glad to see it because I think oftentimes there's a the contrast or what people's myths are about this
Yeah,
is not true.
yeah.
And so I don't know. And again, fatherhood looks different depending on the situation and circumstances. I'll be really curious about what my son and daughter say about what it's like to be.
That's right.
Uh,
Right. You have to ask your daughter on Sunday, right? Be like, how was that like for you?
there's a part of me is like I think I know, and there's another part of my I probably don't have any idea whatsoever.
It's all them
But
layers though, right? Because I'm like,
yeah.
you know what the experience was like for you and
Hmm.
what you were
Hmm.
intending to do, and you have some sense via the relationship. Obviously, you have a great relationship with both of your kids. So that tells me I know you did some things right, you
I
know,
sure do hope.
in terms of that relationship. And but the things that you don't know or don't understand, absolutely. I mean that human.
You know, something I had to struggle with as a father early
Mm,
on, and it was something I still had to battle, especially when went through the divorce.
mm,
You know, sometimes when you go through a dysfunctional life, sometimes you're what you struggle with is knowing which way is up because you haven't
yeah.
been accustomed
Mm,
to a certain way of being
hmm.
coming from a single parent home,
Yeah.
other kinds of struggles. And so one of the things I struggled with was I hope my kids know I love them,
Mm, yeah.
right? So I was in my session with my therapist, and he says, "Well, what is this based off? Good old CBT stuff, right?
Right.
Cognitive behavioral, right?"
Get
He
you
was
with
like, "So what's your evidence for this?"
right.
I
What's
said,
your
"Well, I don't know. I'm just worried." Blah, blah, blah.
mm,
Well, did you ask them?
right?
Why don't you go
Oh,
ask them? And so I go ask them both
mhm,
individually, and they're like, "Yeah, Poppy, blah blah this," and they're just, and I literally was like tearing up,
mm,
right? Because there was no doubt
yeah.
they knew I loved them.
Mm,
Even in
mm,
times when they've had struggles personally that have been
yeah.
difficult, and I'm like, I hope I mean, because you know, when kids have struggles, sometimes you're like, "Well, maybe I didn't, I didn't love them enough," or
Yeah.
something
Something I
ridiculous like
didn't
that.
do that played a role.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Poppy, no, I'm just struggling right now, and it has nothing to do with you. It's just
Mm,
I'm having a hard time, and I
mm,
know you love me.
mm.
Sometimes your love is a is a burden
Right.
because I know
A little bit less right now.
could you
I
love
gotta
me
work through
less a
some
little
stuff.
bit?"
Right. Take a little
But
to
it
breathe.
but but that was that was a struggle I've had for years because I think
Mm,
because I wasn't concerned about the love that I had been
got
receiving from
yeah.
my father, and there was uncertainty, so I hadn't gotten accustomed to what that's like.
Mm,
And so when I talk to my kids, I had this great conversation with my son yesterday. We just hadn't talked in a while. And we were on the phone, I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes,
mm,
just jibber jabbering
yeah.
about everything. And
Mm.
afterwards, I'm so sensitive right now. I just start tearing up. And I'm just happy for
Yeah.
him.
Right.
I'm happy to have these kinds of conversations. These are the things I guess I've always wanted.
Yeah.
And when I get it and
Mm,
I have those experiences, I'm just like, man, this
that's
feels so fucking good.
wonderful. But I look, I think you're speaking of something that's so important in this journey, whether fathers are in the household or outside, is you talk about one having a personal awareness, um, but also having an idea about how do I want to show up as a dad. Like
Hmm.
my kids knowing that I love them was really important to you, and you did everything in your power to show that, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you disciplined your kids and all the other things that you needed to do as a parent, but in these proportions. And I think, um, you know, I, I think there's just this real opportunity um, for fathers to do more of that and to lean in. And I'd love, man, if I had my magic wand, I'd
Hmm.
love for all fathers to be leaning more in on that love piece that you talked
Hmm.
about.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, and I think the love, the caring, the emotionality pieces,
Hmm.
because, you know, I think often men are seen kind of as automatons. And if I look
Mhm,
back at even my experience with my dad, I mean, you know, he's pretty stoic, you know,
mhm, mhm,
um, through most of my life. It was very hard for me at least to understand. I'm like, what's going on with this cat? Where's he coming from?
mhm,
And I don't, you know, I never sort of sat there and thought, oh, my dad doesn't love me or anything like
mhm.
that. I definitely thought he didn't get me, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like
Right.
he loved me. But you know, as I got older and I could step back and see him differently, I created a story. Now,
Mhm,
God knows if that story is accurate,
mhm,
but I created a story around who he was and what he was important.
mhm,
At some level, it would have been nice
mhm.
for him to have told me that story, um, and shared. You know, I mean, he did share some nuggets. Like he's like,
Of
"Boy,
course.
your friends are really important." He's like, "You only get one or two like really good friends in your whole life." He's like,
Mhm,
"Treasure them." And that
mhm.
nugget actually stuck with me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so I was like, so it made me know through the story that he believed friends and friendship was important, and he believed family. You know, he's like, "Your mama got me on an allowance." I'm like, "Wait a minute, how you on allowance with your money?" He's like, "I give her the money because I don't want to know. I don't want to hear nothing." He goes, but I keep my lunch money. My dad would do some crazy shit. He's like, "I keep my lunch money, um, cause in case like you know your cousins or my siblings they need some help,
Mhm,
I got a little pocket money that I can
mhm.
flip to them, you know, in case they need it." And so that told me family was really important to him.
Mhm,
So I learned things that were important to him more by the examples than what he ever
mhm.
said. But yeah, but it was interesting. But yeah, sometimes I think I'm like, it would have been kind of cool to be like, tell me what matters to you or how you
Mhm.
think about stuff. Um, so you know, give me the shorthand, you know, and maybe it would have been, you know, I don't know, maybe it would have made us closer than what we were, you know,
Yeah.
at
Well,
least give me a different perspective.
but what you made me think about is just what do we learn from our fathers? And there's
Mm,
different ways of learning, right? There's the conversations, the ones that we had and the ones we wish we had.
mm-hmm.
But there's the example that oftentimes they
Yeah.
exemplified. And this may be the father, the stepfather, the
Mm-hmm.
male figures in your life. And for
Yeah.
me, it was my mother's father, my
Mm-hmm.
grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
his father, my great
Oh
grandfather.
wow.
These people, I mean, just the sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
their presence, their hugs, their
Mhm.
admiration, their high expectations.
Mhm.
Those are all things I learned without them saying really much.
Yeah.
It was just like what they kind of overhearing
Yep.
conversations or
Mhm.
and so I think there's those are some of the ways that we learn from our fathers,
Yeah.
and also mothers, but fathers
Yep.
in particular, that I think are important because I think sometimes maybe some people feel like it's the conversation or the rule books that
Mhm.
you got or
Yes.
but there's so many ways that we learn from our parents, from our
Yeah.
fathers. It's hard to kind of keep track.
It is. It is.
But it's important that we, because the very things you're talking about is definitely things I've learned from, whether it be my father or other male men in my
Yeah.
life who were trying to show me what's up,
That's right.
and to be honest, it wasn't just them trying to show me something. It was me wanting to know
To know.
what's the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I've mentioned a couple of times on here. I do some mentoring at a Catholic high school here on the west side of Chicago, and many of the kids who are there, their fathers are not necessarily in the home. But even for the kids whose fathers are, like I watch and I listen to them. They talk a lot about this struggle about like
Mhm,
of becoming, um,
mhm,
and you know that feels like it's missing for
mhm,
many of them. You know, and I think some of it is that whole thing of even if Daddy is there, he's so busy working and
mhm,
providing that maybe he doesn't take the opportunity to let you know some things. And I think we spend a lot of time, and I remember this piece, which didn't work so well for me as a kid, but my dad liked to tell me what to do.
mhm,
And I was never really a person who did well
mhm,
with people telling me what to do. I still don't. Um, and so, and I know what he was doing, which was, I don't want you to make the mistakes I made.
Giving you guidance.
Getting guidance. But it came down as a, you got to do this. It came down more as a dictate than a guidance piece. And so, like when I'm mentoring kids, I very rarely tell them what to do. One, because I'm not them.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, what you're considering. Would you consider this? Would you consider that? Well, why do you think that is for you? And some of that I'm sure about training as therapists too. But some kids literally are like, no, I need you to tell me.
Like I need clear instructions.
I need clear instructions. And if they ask me for clear instructions, there's clear instructions. My play son, who actually would go to jail and all this kind of crazy stuff, we got to a point where I literally said to him, because he'd be saying some crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, Jonathan, here's your mantra. What would Lawrence do? I said, because you make terrible decisions. Why your ass in jail? And he just started laughing. And I was like, I'm serious. I'm like, I'm not joking. I'm like, what would Lawrence do? And he's like, okay. And then I'd be like, so what would Lawrence do? And he'd be like, well, Lawrence would do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, exactly. And even when he got out of jail, he would hit me with, he goes, I was thinking about what you said. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, what you told me. I was like, what? He goes, what would Lawrence do? I was like, oh, I forgot the shit. And he'd be like, so I thought, well, this is what Jonathan would do. And then I'd be like, well, what would Lawrence do? He goes, what would Lawrence do actually was a better idea. I'm like, exactly. Keep your ass out of jail.
Think through that.
Think through that. That's which is all it was. It's like, but it was kind of funny, what I mean? But for him, it was like, you need more direction, and some kids don't. I mean, I'm sure you see that with your kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People and you love them both.
Yeah.
How you deal with them is different based upon what you see,
Oh, different.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, and I'm transitioning a little bit to the future of fatherhood.
I was about to say, this is a good segue to future, yeah.
Yeah, because I think one of the generational challenges, personality challenges, I think a lot of our fathers or the generation prior to us, fatherhood looked more like deference. Like you do what I tell you to do. Yeah. Don't do anything I do.
Yes.
Speak until you're spoken to. Don't get into grown folks' conversations. Right. And I'm not saying I haven't abandoned all that. I'm just saying it was a little more clear, right?
Crystal.
Whereas I think deference was out of just pure, I'm your parent.
Yes.
Forget what you did, whether it was respectable or not, and all that kind of stuff. You deferred to their authority, and that was it. And that was a partly survival.
Yep.
Post-slavery, and all that nonsense, right? And now we talk about respect, right? We want our kids to respect us. Some of us want our kids to be our friends. I'm not a big fan of that idea.
Let me be very clear. That's crazy. Your kids.
I just want to be their friend. No, I am always going to be your father.
Exactly.
Because I don't want you talking crazy to me. I still feel weird about my kids cussing around me.
Exactly.
I don't even cuss around my elders.
She quick to be like, I ain't your friend. I was like, Shirley,
I ain't one of your little friends.
I ain't one of your little friends. I'm like, my friends are old as hell now. What you talking about?
But my aunt and uncles, they're all in their 70s and 80s. And I still feel funny about cussing around. And so I realized that it's a deference versus respect. And respect looks different to everyone else. But I think when I think about the future, I think about what you said earlier. How can we get beyond just the kind of fundamentals of you're all right? Everything's good. But it's kind of like when we talk about, when I get pissed off with my allies in the social justice space, it's like, it's not enough for you to get these kids to graduate from first grade and high school. I want you to help them out become billionaires. And if you don't believe in billionaires, at least millionaires.
Yeah.
Because if you're not helping them in the ways that you would help your own children, you're just doing charity work as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And so to me, it's not enough to just provide the basics. Now I get it. economics, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many things that don't cost money, and I say this because there was a brother. I wish I'd looked him up before, but he talks about how he grew up in the hood
Mm-hmm.
and he fought
Mm-hmm.
and he did all these things. And so when he looked at his son, he thought, "Man, my son's a punk."
Right. Right.
Because he didn't grow up like me,
Right.
hard in the streets and blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. And he said at some point he stopped thinking about his son in that way because he's like, look, I raised him in a world where he didn't have to deal
Have
with
to
those
do all that.
things. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want him to live in that
Right.
life. And so no, he's not that. I'm expecting him to be like me,
Mhm.
but I was the way I was because of how I grew up.
Context. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, that's a struggle, I think, because I think even for me, I grew up in a certain way and I fought a lot
Mm-hmm.
to a certain point. I felt like I was always fighting.
Yeah.
And then I raised my kids in a different situation and I wonder why they're not like me.
Right.
They good,
Right.
good.
Good. Right. Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. You said something really important though, because I think the story maybe of the future of parenting is um, it doesn't go overboard with indulgence and infantilizing kids,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also not what we grew up with, which is shut up and know your place.
Right.
Be seen, not heard.
Right.
Um,
Right.
there's a dynamic that exists in parenting, and in some respects, I think it's harder
Yeah, it is.
because and parenting, I think for our parents was hard, but it was pretty black and white.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Now we're asking people to be more nuanced. Kind of the conversation we had last week about
Mm-hmm.
Plattner, right? Is like,
Mm-hmm.
is rehabilitation possible? And it's like, well, it's not a yes or no, black or white situation. There's some nuance there. I think for fathers in particular, positioning themselves, to be nurturing and caring and tough.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I think the future is showing the complexity of manhood, whether with your son or with your daughter, or with your child, is important to help them as they are on their journey. One, to self, but also in terms of helping them look for a partner at some point in the future. It's like this is what, and maybe just this is what a whole human being looks like.
Right.
You Emotional and tough and all those things all at the same time. So.
Yeah, and I guess for me, when I think about parenting, I think part of the challenge that with us, at least here in the States, is that you have the post-colonialism, post-slavery,
Mhm.
all these things that I think happened to us as a culture that formed our idea of what parenting should look like, right?
Mhm.
And part of me, sometimes when I think about the kind of parent I want to be, I look at other countries, other
Mm.
cultures, and see what they're doing not in response to oppression, but how they may have been before they were.
Mhm.
And what you see is story after story of the very thing we're talking about, the nuance,
Mm.
right? It's not based off of being in conflict and war all the time. It's based off
Mhm.
oppression. It's raising them up. It's having real conversations. It's about being good providers, but being emotionally well and having a vibrant series of emotions. You're not just one thing or another, right? And so you consistently hear that kind of story across cultures, particularly even in the continent, of fatherhood being something that's robust,
Mhm.
dynamic, uh, and living in a family that's that way as well, and not being in response to some form of oppression or patriarchy or
Mhm.
other kinds of nonsense.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. That's the beautiful part to me as far as the future, because I think there's a great future in front of us. There's things that are going on today that are great. I just think sometimes as a father, I feel like my job wasn't just to go on what was put in front of me. I had to go out and find like
Yeah.
what the kind of father I wanted to be.
Mhm.
I had to go find it
Go find it.
and embrace it
Yeah.
and make mistakes, say
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and be a better parent, be a better person, and
Yeah.
hopefully I'm still on that journey. But that's kind of how I see the future of being a parent, being a father.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love what you just said, because I think it really matters. For parenting figures. And as you're talking, one thing that crossed my mind was this sense of, and we're talking about fathers, but it's also community.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm,
you know, like I have my play son, but I don't have biological kids. I'm an uncle to many.
mm.
Um,
What's
and
up, Unc?
Unc, right? Um, and I'm reminded, like my best friend, I've told you, he passed away a couple of years ago. Like his son is my godchild. I love this kid to death. He's a brilliant young man. Um, and his dad he had a certain way that he wanted his son to grow up. And
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, he was a good father, very good father.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because me and his son now will have these conversations, and I'm like, and I'll say stuff to him, and I always did. I'll be like, "Are you like, where are you? How are you feeling? What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kind of. It was the questioning, but trying to understand. Um, because I'm like, yeah, I get it. You don't necessarily want to do that. I was like, your daddy ain't gonna go for that, but I get it. And you're gonna have to figure out how to make that work. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think, and I think because he said something to me, he's like, nah, he's like, Uncle Lawrence, I appreciate that you've always been supportive and that you gave me space at times, to sort of say or do or think what, you know, kind of made sense to me. And, but I think between his dad and me and a whole bunch of village, you know, we all got a little bit of hand in helping to shape who this young man has become. I mean, the vast
Mm-hmm.
majority is his mom and dad for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we've also had influences.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm with my friends' kids, I'm quite I try to be very thoughtful about how I engage with them and what I do or say with them. Because I'm like, my uncles had an impact on me. I know they did. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think there's a recognition that, we as a community are raising these kids and what are the impacts that we are also trying to have
Yeah.
no
Well,
matter.
unfortunately, Hillary Clinton gets credit for it takes a village to raise a child.
You
But
mean that
as
African
you
proverb,
African proverb that's been around since
Right.
Methuselah.
The Methuselah.
And
Right, exactly.
and it's also a theme that you see across cultures, the value of
Mhm.
community, of your group, your crew, your people
Yeah.
taking care of you and looking at. I mean,
Mhm.
we still tell stories about how someone told on you.
Yeah.
That's all you can do is something down the street
Miss
that you
Smith
shouldn't
down the
have
street.
done. Like the police is
You know what
everywhere.
that boy Kevin was out there doing? Yeah.
Oh god,
He
damn,
yelled
god,
at you to
damn.
stop doing whatever it was that you was doing.
It's just the potential. It didn't even have to happen. Just
No,
the
that's
potential
real.
that something
You're like,
could
ooh.
happen.
Oh, Miss
I mean, I
Johnson
got
on
away
the
with
block.
plenty, but
Right, exactly. Miss Johnson on the block. You better stop messing around.
but hey, let's transition. One, I really appreciate that conversation. I think it was great for us
Absolutely.
to take some time for that. I wanted to just touch on this William James and Stephen A. because you know a little bit more about it than I do, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, it came up because, well, let me give you context. So UFC 250 was last weekend, and both Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN commentator, and Jay Williams, who's also an ESPN commentator, were both at the event. So 4,000 people showed up. And the video clip that I saw, I did not see it because I don't care about UFC, and I definitely didn't care about this. But the clip that I saw was Stephen A. and Jay Williams on probably like First Take talking about the event. And they both said, what a wonderful event it was. Now, let me say, these are two Black men. And it hit my ear a certain kind of way and not positive. Yeah, I was about to throw up. I was like, ooh, seriously, what's wrong with you?
Cornball,
Right. I was like, it was
bitch ass niggas.
wonderful.
That's what I
Right.
want to
Basically,
say.
I was like, it was wonderful. It was so great. It was amazing. It was on the White House lawn, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm sure all that was really great. And I went in on them. Me and all my friends, we went in like, these coon ass, like we was just killing. And what it made me think about, KP, was our conversation last week
Mm-hmm.
about Graham Plattner.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, are you the worst thing that you've ever done? Can you
Mm-hmm.
be rehabilitated?
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of it, and I'm still on them. But the context, the reason I wanted to talk about it was I was like, and I'll put it in black and white. Last week, I was like, I couldn't even do my job if people couldn't be rehabilitated, right?
Right.
And now this week, I'm like, these coon ass niggas out here, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, damn, Lawrence. I was like,
That sounds judgy.
it sounds super like more than judgy, right? And I'm like, it sounds inconsistent and
Right.
incongruent. How you gonna be like, you gonna get this dude a pass who might be a racist and who definitely was, who clearly seems to be a misogynist. How you gonna give him a pass because he said I changed, and then you're gonna be raking these cats over the coal, because they like some crazy UFC thing. And so I wanted to talk about it. One, because I was like, damn, you being inconsistent. But two, I was like, well, okay, do I have a different criteria for black folk?
Well, sometimes our in-group associations tend to be we have higher standards sometimes. We have higher expectations, right?
Right.
And you said this earlier. There's a clear difference between a Plattner type person
Mm-hmm.
and what we're seeing with Jay Williams and Stephen A. These are people who are consistently demonstrating a pattern of behavior that's problematic. So when they get on take their show and say, "Oh, how wonderful," this is the same kind of buffoonery and coon, whatever the word is, coonness, coon ass stuff that both of them have been demonstrating over the last several years. And so, how they got there and why they're there is a whole different story. Now, if they want to get out of that space, there is a path. There's a path.
Preach.
But it's not one. I mean, if George Wallace, the biggest racist in Alabama governor, can found a pathway out of his buffoonery,
right?
These brothers can too. They just have to choose to.
Yes.
And there's people who are doing this all the time who've demonstrated and shown themselves not to be trustworthy for a number of different reasons or harmful, actually harm people.
Yep.
But they've done things to say, I don't think that's working for me anymore.
That's not. And I think, and I love when you said that earlier when we were talking off air, because I was really struggling with this, because I'm like, I don't think you're being fair to them. But it clicked for me when you said they haven't changed. We can argue about whether Plattner has changed or not.
Right. Right.
But he at least is able to acknowledge that he has done some wrong. He's working to be a different person and is trying to demonstrate that by his action. Mm-hmm. I don't see that with Stephen A. I don't see that with Jay Williams. And I don't know that I see the insight or perspective even to articulate, like, this is kind of effed up for all kinds of reasons. And what I said wasn't cool, wasn't fair, is incongruous with what I believe. Now, maybe for both of them, this is what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there is, frankly, that level of shallowness in them that this is like, okay, this is fine, it's cool, it's not a big deal. But I think that's what I'm looking for from them, is a recognition of, I said some foul shit, stupid shit. I've learned from the error of my ways, and here's how I'm going to try to do better. And I think in Stephen A's situation in particular, there's never learning. It's just more, castigation and more crazy stuff that he says, to get, hits on ESPN or whatever. It's like, let me be as vile and foul as I can be with whatever I say, and bombastic, because that's going to get me followership. So in that sense, it even feels worse, because all you're trying to do is, get likes, if you will, and money, and where's your sense of humanity underneath it?
Yeah, and at an event where we'll talk about this in a moment, at an event where one of the fighters called Michelle Obama as a man.
Right.
So you can tell me how this is a great event and something like that, but not mention the fact that this happened.
Right.
Now you can make an argument that that had nothing to do with it, go separate things, but you had a major person who was part of this event making commentary that was inappropriate and wrong, and so I can't think of an event being great when those kinds of things are going on.
Correct. Right. Exactly.
So yeah, and people are kind of thinking it's funny, and
Right.
you guys the whole crowd getting involved and kind of repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's supposed to be a great event when those things happen, and it's almost giving permission.
Yeah, I don't think it can be from my perspective. It's like, ugh, that's kind of disgusting, I mean,
Yeah.
So that in of itself, I mean, the fact that this place that we considered almost sacred, the White House, first of all, could have never from Jump Street, for me personally, would have never made it a great event.
No.
I'm like, you've commercialized the White House. I'm like, you've sold it around. But then to hear this commentary about, Michelle Obama on top of
that was so frustrating.
It's like, oh no, that's just gross. I'm like, so then brothers, as we head to Father's Day, and both of them are fathers, I hope some of the things that they're teaching their kids.
I hope their kids are teaching them.
Well, I hope this ain't the stuff that you're teaching your kids, and I hope you're listening to your kids, and they're like, Daddy, you got that one wrong. Like, that's foul. So,
well, cool. I want to transition. We didn't do a grounding card intentionally because I wanted to move to just focusing on the engagement cards. And I wanted to use this one, and we'll finish with our side eye. To me, safety feels like blank. To me, safety feels like blank. And and for me, safety has felt like at being at peace, where I'm not worried about money. I'm not worried about my safety as far as physical safety and danger, and I feel loved in the home. It's the appropriate temperature in the home. I'm not sweating my balls off or freezing my ass off. When thank God I've had these moments, but those are the things I think of when I feel safety. It's how my world feels around me, but then also how I feel inside.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think for me, safety feels very much like the peace piece. But I think it's also when I feel cared for and concerned about by folks in my sphere, even if it's just random. Hey, LJ, I was checking on you. You all right?
Yeah.
Like, there are people out there who looking out for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that feeling always feels very good and makes me feel very safe in the world. Like, somebody gonna notice.
Excellent. Well, let's touch on this last one, which I think is a bit sad. More than sad, it's heartbreaking. We had earlier this week, or this past weekend, I think, there was an incident in Mississippi. Unfortunately, it fits
all the
things that people were worried about. Where a 1-year-old child was killed, black little boy was killed in his mother's arms because they believe that the mother or whoever they were there were shoplifting diapers. And one of the things that came up for me is, one, the fuck,
right?
Two, y'all over here shooting guns over diapers. And I thought when people, I mean, one of the things I thought is that when someone's leaving the store, even the store is like, just let them be with them things.
Right.
Well, whatever they're taking, we're not going to get our staff involved with dealing with that stuff because it's just not worth it.
Right.
And so I'm just sitting here going, y'all over here shooting people because of diapers? Well, and I know some people are going to be like, well, they should have been stealing. they shouldn't have been caught themselves in that situation. I mean, they're in Mississippi. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't care about that.
Right.
It's still wrong.
Right.
It's an injustice, and now there's a person, there's some parents, there's a family now who don't have a
Mhm.
child because of this incident,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's so sad.
It is super sad. And unfortunately, these dynamics seem to play out in Black and Brown communities disproportionately.
Hmm.
Uh, so we can't just take it out of the realm of race, uh,
Hmm.
and think that it's some sanitized. This is the thing that happens everywhere, because that's not the treatment that,
No,
frankly, in white communities, when similar kinds of things happen.
over
And
diapers.
over diapers, right, right. Worst case, somebody might have just been like, "Here, take the diapers," or bought the diapers for them. And you don't, and I don't know. So to be clear, I don't know the circumstances that may have led to that behavior, if they actually were stealing diapers.
Right.
But it's disproportionate, you know, um, to the quote unquote crime. Um, why we got guns out for $12 worth of diapers? I mean, and I think it speaks to a larger issue for me, KP, which is Black folks in particular are not seen as human or valuable.
Right.
So, we like, okay, sure, and to the conversation we had last time, if the worst thing that mother or whomever it was who had taken those diapers, if that's what they did, if that's the worst thing that they've ever done, the response of taking their child is woefully out of proportion.
Yeah. Woefully makes no sense
Makes no
whatsoever.
makes no sense.
Right.
And so I and then we wonder why Black folks are afraid of the cops and don't want to deal with
Oh well, why they're not welcome? Why
well, right,
we like tense up when they show up
right,
when they
exactly.
when I, to
Why
this day.
make sense?
I mean, I know I'm probably committing a crime, maybe jaywalking or speeding,
Mhm.
but there's no reason for me to be always tensing up every
Right,
time the police show up because I'm
exactly.
not committing no real crimes,
Right, right,
but because of my past experiences and the
exactly,
experience of people I care about,
exactly.
that's where it comes from.
Yeah,
There's anxiety,
absolutely.
right?
Right, right. You're traumatized by the broader experiences, not even your own traumas. I mean, you may have your own, but even you're like, I know, I mean, and look, we've talked about this. I mean, Black parents spend a lifetime, especially teaching their Black boys, um,
Mm.
how, in their minds, how not to get shot. Uh,
Yep, all the rules, the
all the
talk as they like
rules,
to
the
call it.
talk, the talk, exactly, the talk. I mean, manifest from these kinds of situations. Um,
Well, because what's been demonstrated is that despite the talks, despite the respectability politics, despite our best efforts to prepare, there's still danger afoot that we oftentimes can't protect our children from, and
Absolutely.
that feels
Right.
terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh, it's all the things.
It's
It's
all,
terrible.
yeah.
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 I do want to connect this to the other conversation around Michelle Obama being called a man, because really it's an attempt, as you mentioned earlier, with this young boy, this child. It's another attempt to dehumanize a black woman of power and
Mm-hmm.
influence, who's probably the most popular politician,
Mm-hmm.
if not in this hemisphere, across the
Right.
world, because she's so well liked and respected, who's intelligent.
Mhm.
But this dude, his way of entertaining others is to accuse her of being a man. And if she was a man, so what? But that's not the
Right.
freaking
It's not.
point.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you're doing it as a way of dehumanizing a
Mhm.
black woman because black women can't be delicate, they can't
Mhm.
be pristine, they can't be pure.
Mhm.
You got to work them hard. They can't have as much pain as
Right.
white women,
Right.
right? They can endure pain actually
Endure
more
pain.
so.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so, it's just more of that same trope that's been put
Mhm.
out there about black women, despite the fact that she has been all the things
Right.
we needed
Right.
her to be.
Right. All the things, and the crazy part, Michelle Obama has consistently taken the high road on all kinds of things.
So much. Sometimes
Yeah.
I don't
I,
want to.
no, I'm always like, I was like, fuck that. go low. Sometimes you gotta go low.
Sue them.
Right.
Sue him.
Do
Defamation.
do what you gotta do. Go low. Because I mean, because sometimes, like we used to say back in the day, sometimes you gotta punch a bully in the face.
Well,
And so if that's going low, go do what you gotta do. But I'm like, we ain't asking you to be, sanctified or sanctified in this. It's like, so, and I appreciate the double bind that, she and Barack are in around these kinds of things, and that the community is coming out in their support. But, the gall to be able to say this. And honestly, and I don't know if this man is a racist or a misogynist. I don't know nothing about this cat. I don't even know.
like it.
And don't want to know his name. He got his 35 seconds of glory, and there's all this conversation around it. But I think much of it was just done to be viral.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the best you could do, is to be viral. So, I wish she'd go low. I do.
We go low.
Go low. When you go low, sometimes we go lower. And fight back, because I'm like, at some point, just always taking the bullshit, it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
And if folks think they can always get away with it because you're going to take the bullshit, sometimes I think they keep trying you.
But I do want to offer this before we wrap up. If I was Michelle Obama, sitting in where she is in life, and it's a bit of a ivory tower, I would be looking down and be like, moving on.
Well, that's it, right? And I think that's been their reaction, and her reaction is like, whatever. You're like,
yeah, it's not the first time I've heard this.
Right.
Won't be the last.
Won't be the last.
And while I'm doing what I'm doing good in the world, we're gonna forget about you,
right?
And no one's gonna remember your name,
right? Because everybody remembers her name.
So, well, hey man, I know we gotta wrap things up, but it was a pleasure sitting down and talking with you.
Always good to wrap with you.
Again, happy Juneteenth. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too.
And I don't know. I'm thinking things are gonna be. I'm feeling good for today. So we're not gonna do a celebration card because we're running out of time, but we'll get together next week and keep the conversation going. This is Riffing While Black.
And happy Father's Day to you and all the fathers listening.
All right. Well, happy Father's Day, and appreciate you, man. Take care. All right.
Peace.